Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much again for joining me here. I hope you're having a great day. Let's take another look here at SUI, see what's going on. We got a bit of a correction here, of course. We saw 343 not hold as a support level like it was supposed to, and we didn't break free from this descending type of trend here, so basically a long would be invalidated because of that. If you saw my video over the weekend, you'll recognize that maintaining above 343 is extremely important, and we never truly closed above that level. So at this point here, it's not a guarantee, but it would make sense for the price to continue to pull back until it breaks its descending trend. We'll clear up the charts here, of course, and get you some better, some better understanding of what's going on, obviously in this video, but I'll also post a playout chart in our Twitter, Telegram, and Discord, so just know that exists, and I have that available for you if you want to kind of get perspective on where I think things are going to go. Like for example, Solana descending trend, obviously in a bearish type of downtrend, but that's just kind of what you want to see there. Also, make sure you take advantage of our deposit bonus here from Bitunix. Excellent rewards here. Use my link to register. $12,000 deposit bonus this month. Awesome stuff. So let's look at SUI. Back in data, kind of talk about the liquidation areas here. And when we talk about this and we look at the last 7 days, we can see there is more liquidation on the downside than the upside. Same thing rings true with the macro as well. When we look at the bigger picture, we can recognize that we've got solid amount of liquidation at $3 or lower. $2.50 to $3 is a heavy concentration. So while I think that that's less likely to happen, we just need to know that it exists, right? We lose $3, there's a solid chance we're going to go a lot further down, or at the very least, we get closer to 3. A candle wick or two to that upper $2 range would make sense. That's just kind of how the market moves. We can see here, we've got a large amount of liquidation delta here to the downside. This is getting concerning if it maintains itself too high. Again, the longer you spend in either direction, the more likely it is to reverse. So we've been short, people have been shorting with success for a decent amount of time, last 3 or 4 days. So it would make sense for the price action to kind of pivot or bounce or just find its bottom. We could be at that bottoming point here at about 320. We'll talk about support levels here in a moment, but when we look at see our open interest, we can recognize there's heaviest amount of open interest about 320 and or 340. I'm rounding up and down a little bit there, but that's kind of like this little support range that we're in right now. We're kind of almost in the middle of it or in the throes of that. And the reason why this is important is because open interest tells us a lot about where people have the heaviest amount of positions. And in turn, there's usually support areas in that vicinity, okay? So 320, tentative support for SUI, 340, tentative resistance for SUI, okay? It's kind of the general consensus there. And that rings fairly consistent with this 343 as a previous support, likely to turn into a new resistance level here for us. So if we look at this here, hypothetically, the price continues higher up, we could very well see some resistance there at that level, okay? So just kind of throwing it out there. That's just how standard trading 101 tactics or strategies, it's just kind of the way that it works, right? Anyways, having said that, weekly or monthly time frame, we'll quickly get some perspective here. I talked about this previously, that the fair value gap was forming on the weekly. There's a massive one on the monthly too. Keep in mind, they don't always get filled, folks, but it's a pretty large probability it will at some point, okay? So heaven forbid, price pulls back for SUI, low $2 range would be a solid consideration. I don't personally think that's going to happen, but just know that is a real thing, okay? Take a look here, of course, we can see as well, if we look at the monthly, not a lot really of data here telling us where we're at, but we're getting closer to 70 in the RSI. Generally a kind of favorable sign to consider taking profits when that gets closer there, depending on how long you're planning to hold the coin for, okay? I'm sure those who are watching this video are probably going to be planning to hold for a lot longer than just this month or a couple of months, but just know we're getting closer to a sell signal on the monthly, which isn't necessarily a consideration to sell, just letting you know that a pullback would make sense here. Okay, take a look here, of course, at the weekly. Same scenario here. This is the fair value gap I discussed previously. Again, not a guarantee, but if we see the low $2 range, that would be a solid consideration for a long. Heaven forbid that happens. We got a decent amount of support there based on volume and also that being a previous high, an all-time high from back in, April, okay? So again, good stuff there in the overall sense. That's not a bad sign at all when we see that. Just know it exists. We're above all moving averages, a lot of support. We're also back down under 70 in the RSI here. So again, this would have in hindsight been a sell signal for take profit on a medium-term time frame hold. Me personally, like whenever I take a trade with SUI, for example, I like to get in and out fairly quick within about a week. Personally, that's just my strategy. Anything longer than that seems a little bit crazy. Anything shorter than that, it's just a lot more work, right? Either way, stochastic RSI swinging back down for the second time, that does carry more weight. This does imply that further downside is probable for SUI. Now again, is it a guarantee? No, but statistically we're more likely to see the price pull back than go up at this time, just based on the way that, how poorly this coin is working with Bitcoin. You also got to recognize too, though, that if Bitcoin runs towards 100,000, SUI is going to run towards $4, right? So there's that as well. All the more reason why you don't short this coin. You only consider longs at key level supports. That's just my strategy. It's worked fairly well for our community. We take a look here at our group here. We can kind of recognize that HBR 84%. We got in on that in the 14-cent range. We took a long with Tau as well, 71%, but there we go. SUI, 25% in 12 hours. That gives you perspective there. That was a swing trade designed to hold for a week, and instead we got profits within a half a day, okay? This coin moves fast when it does, but just make sure you recognize that it's important to have a stop loss in place at any given time. Never just trade openly without any reservation, because this coin will surprise you. And it has propensity to pull back pretty hard sometimes too. Okay, it just recovers a lot quicker, and it's hard to notice that. But if you look at the charts, this coin is very aggressive in either direction. 4-hour time frame, we'll look at that next, but the daily time frame, we're over 50 on the RSI. Money flow index is very low. This is actually concerning. So just to clarify or to understand here, when you look at the money flow index, or just in general the volume is tapering off, and as this comes down, we stay below that moving average. It's not a good sign. Keep in mind, this is normal selling pressure for how high up the coin came. We had a lot of volume previously, so the MFI is going to look lower now than it should, because of that massive drop off in volume, based on the fact that you just can't buy as much at a higher price point. That's just kind of part of the situation. Exactly why money flow index is important to recognize. With that being low, it's a good chance that we're going to see the price action, likely continue lower if Bitcoin does too. So just know that we're definitely poorly paired. Geez, that's hard to say. Poorly paired with Bitcoin to the downside. Every time Bitcoin pulls back, SUI is pulling back a little harder, more aggressively. That's for the moment though, right? We've got to recognize Bitcoin dominance is coming down. A lot of altcoins are surging, but these are some larger market cap coins, like XRP and AVAX. They're doing really well, and it's like, what the heck? Why isn't SUI doing well? Well, SUI had its time in the light, and it needs to be able to consolidate in this area before it can leg up again. That's just my personal thoughts. We're underneath a pretty significant amount of resistance here at 343. Keep that in mind. That is a new resistance for us. So my speculation is if the price comes back up to 340, 343 range, we'll probably see an initial rejection. We just need a lot more volume to be able to get through there, and we're not there yet. 4-hour time frame, we are below all moving averages, at least the important ones. The 200 is trailing behind. That's a small amount of support, but I wouldn't trust that. When we look at the 4-hour time frame, though, we're under 50 on the RSI, generally construed as a bearish sign. You don't take longs into that. You could consider a long, of course, if we were to double bottom. There's potential for that to be a good solid pivot point. So heaven forbid we hit the $3 $2.95 range, we'll probably see a bounce from there. So I'm honestly considering a long in the low $3 range anyways, so I'm just going to go ahead and set alert, see if it might be worth reevaluating and jumping in. Stochastic swinging up here, there's potential for a turnaround, but I really don't see it, okay? Again, just from a technical standpoint, it's no discredit on your favorite coin, by the way. I always have to say that because some people get a little butthurt sometimes when they see that I just talk about, or I just allude to the fact the price could pull back. It's actually quite humorous how blindsided some people can be. Good news is very few of those traders will watch this channel, so it's good to see that. And I appreciate the support either way. Hourly time frame, let's recognize here. This is just kind of proof in the pudding here, basically letting us know that taking a long position makes 0 sense, considering the lagging span still free and clear of the downside. We're below the cloud. This is basically a descending type of trend. It's just a little easier to see with this guy here than an actual trend line. And we can also recognize too, the conversion lines below the baseline. So good momentum to the downside, strong probability we're going to see further downside. It would make more sense for the price to come up to reject off its local point of control and back down. Okay, that's kind of, if you're going to consider a short, 340 to 345 would be that area of consideration. Right now, I feel like we're too late to get into a short, and I also feel like we're too early to get into a long. So yes, yep, it's going to happen again. Crypto Cash is going to recommend you don't take a trade at this given time because it's just not ideal, favorable conditions for this coin. Okay, but again, if you're going to spot bag, buy, just average into the position down as low as $3 if it were to come down there. And obviously, that's a different story. When you're using leverage, though, folks, you want to wait for a better entry. Right now, I don't really see it. That's just me personally. I hope you might think different. Feel free to comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Make sure, again, you check us out over at Bitunix, $12,000 deposit prize pool there. And once more, over here at our Twitter, Telegram, and Discord, I'll post a playout chart here for you. Okay? I appreciate your time, though, folks. We'll look forward to seeing the next one. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.